この感触、この匂い。ハンバーガーがドリンクポテト付きで出てきた。
Hello everyone and welcome to another video. So as I put up on my poll in my community notes earlier, I'm getting a little tired of the OP16 meta. It seems pretty solid and solved right now, and even though Crocodile seems to be pretty strong in the meta, it's not one that has a lot of newness to it. So I am going to be focusing mostly on Croc for the rest of OP15, but on my Monday videos, I think I'm going to start looking forward to OP16 because I think that there's some interesting decks coming out then. Just to start that out though, we're going to start with the deck that I think is going to be my preference here, which is Black Yamato. So I figured I'd go through the cards that we've seen so far for the Wano type in Black and kind of get a feel for what the cards do. So I guess starting off with the leader, we have a mono black 5-life leader with 5,000 power and the strike attributes, so no Mihawk problems there. And then when a Land of Wano type character is played from your trash, that character gains rush during this turn. So right away you can kind of tell that this deck is going to be a reanimator focused list, focusing on getting stuff into your trash and then playing Land of Wano stuff out of your trash to get that rush. I've actually seen some pretty interesting combos, and we'll kind of go over some of those in the future or later in this video. But rush has always been a strong keyword, a little less strong now than it was in the beginning of the game, but still a very strong keyword that allows you to get around some of the really aggressive control elements that we see. Purple NL right now is really hard to deal with because it doesn't matter what you do, your units may never get a chance to do much of anything. Like playing down a 10-cost Luffy or the 7-cost Nightmare Luffy and having them remove it from a 10k while standing. There's just a lot of things that fight against you in the current meta if your guys can't immediately get value. And Rush is a good way to make them get value. Moving into the individual cards, we have first up the 1-cost 2,000 power 1k counter Nami. This is a basic top 4 searcher, except it is locked to Land of Wano type leaders, and the cards go to trash. So this is almost an identical card to Miss Valentine, which has been great in Crocodile, so great to see it here. I think that that's probably the pattern we will start to see in Black, is rather than getting the top 5 searcher like other colors get for the 1-cost 2k or 1-cost 1,000 power, you'll see top 4 and they'll go to trash, but they'll be leader locked because if you were to give too many of these to a single black leader, you'd end up with a lot of ability to fill the trash that goes beyond kind of what's reasonable. So a good staple, you're definitely going to be a 4 of in the deck for as long as the main combo is kind of desired. After that, we have a Nico Robin, 1-cost 2,000 power 1k counter with on play. You may trash 1 character card with a cost of 8 or more from your hand and draw 2 cards. So another card neutral play, just like Nami. This one, though, letting you get stuff out of your hand, which will be important for this deck because you want to have certain cards in the trash so that you can revive them. And sometimes those cards will get stuck in your hand. And unless they have a counter, they're going to be hard to directly put there. So this Robin allows you to do that for just 1 done. I kind of wish it was a 2k counter, but the ability to just play it out and cycle through your hand is pretty valuable. So I don't fault them 100% for not making this a 2k, even if I think it would have been perfectly reasonable for them to do. After that, we have the 3-cost 4,000 power 1k counter Chopper. He is on play, draw 2 cards, then trash 2 cards from your hand, then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less. It's been a little bit of time since we've seen too much black KO. So it'll be interesting to see if this one is worth anything for that mode. This does get rid of the little guys out of NL without having to do any investment. So it's probably still playable for that reason. But whether or not you do the normal or the previously traditional black thing of give minus cost and then KO is kind of yet to be seen. The combo that we are building towards, or at least what I've seen people building towards, does involve a little bit of cost minusing. So we'll see if this one fits in there nicely, or if it is mainly used as the draw 2 trash 2. Notably, this is card negative compared to Robin, which is card positive. So keep that in mind. It's really good if you need to shuffle cards out of your hand. You have too many bricks, but it can be a liability if you don't get a chance to use it early in the game and you only have counter. It can be kind of suspect because you're going down in cards. After that, we have a 4-cost 6,000 power no counter Kinemon. This character gains +3 cost, so this should insulate him from a little bit of removal or resting or whatever from the different things by making him into a 7-cost. And then on play, if your leader has the Land of Wano type, look at the top 5 from your deck, reveal up to 1 Land of Wano type card and add it to your hand, then trash the rest. So this is pretty similar and probably around as playable as the Egghead Sanji that we saw from the ST deck, ST29 I think. And I do think that this will be a very important card in the deck because it puts the rest of the cards that you don't pick into the trash. That's going to be really important for getting your cards into the trash so that you can revive. So I think this is going to be great. Also, with it not having counter and not being expensive enough for you to discard to the Robin, I think this is almost certainly going to be the card you really want to play out on 4 and 5, unless you have some better alternatives. Getting the counterless cards out of your hand, especially because it replaces itself potentially with counter, is going to be really important to do. And then it's just a good efficient 4-cost 6,000 power, which should make it a respectable play on 4 anyways. And Nell's always going to be outdoing you with their Dawn on these turns because of their leader ability. But it is nice to be able to at least get the baseline out while getting your card back. After that, we have Portgas Ace, a 4-cost 5,000 power 1k counter with on KO, your opponent trashes 2 cards from their hand. Now, notably, this does not have any limits on how big their hand size is. So you could have your opponent on just like 2 cards and then have this die, and they would lose those last 2 cards. So I do think that this one is potentially strong for that ability. On KO is hard to control yourself. There are a couple ways of doing it, but not a ton. But that's something to watch for. And then after that, we have Activate Main. Once per turn, give up to 1 of your Wano country type leaders or characters up to 1 rested Dawn. So useful for kind of just powering up some of your stuff. And the Activate Main ability, working every turn rather than an on play, does incentivize your opponent to attack into this and get it off the board, because that does represent a kind of recurring source of value that's more than just the 5k or 6k swing if you use it on him, which can be pretty relevant. You kind of make a card annoying so your opponent wants to KO it. And then when they do KO it, they lose their cards. Next up, we have the 5-cost 6,000 power 1k counter Kozuki Odin. It's got blocker, and on play, you may trash 1 character card with a cost of 8 or more from your hand to draw 2. So this is similar to Robin. I think depending on what you have Dawn available for will determine what you want to do. This obviously pinches the rest of your turn pretty heavily in the late game. You do get a blocker out of it that's pretty effective, whereas Robin's not really representing much of a board threat at all, but it does allow you to more flexibly have the rest of your turn up. So say you're looking for a single piece that you intend to play immediately on that turn, Robin can probably get you there easier. But if you are saving for the following turn, then a blocker is probably the better way to do it. So a little bit of balance. I imagine the deck will probably see some number of each of them, just as different options for getting your 8 costs and more into the trash. Moving on to the star of the show, we have the 6 cost Yamato. It's a 6 cost, 5,000 power, 1k counter with on play, draw 1 card and trash 1 card from your hand. So similar to how these ones work, you can get your important targets into the yard. And then it has activate main. You may trash this character. Play up to 1 black Yamato character with a cost of 8 from your trash. This is specifically 8 so that you can't chain them into each other, which would be an immensely strong thing to do. If you just got 4 of these in the trash, played 1, then revived at 1, swung, revive, swing, revive, swing, revive. That would be really, really strong. And something along those lines is actually part of the combo that we have seen from the deck, which I'll go over once I get through the Land of Wano cards. So this is definitely kind of going to be the linchpin of the deck. I think this synergy is going to be your main kind of game plan, is getting these Yamatos out in as many ways as you can. And then reviving out the bigger ones, who we'll go over next. The first one here we have is an 8 cost, 8,000 power, 1k counter, unblockable, and then on KO, play up to 1 6 cost or lower Yamato from your trash. So you play this Yamato, trash it to play out this Yamato, you get a rushing 8k swing that is unblockable. And then if your opponents KO it, you get your Yamato right back to do it again on the next turn. Also notably, because this is playing it out of the trash, that Yamato would also get rush. So that is, for you guys connecting the dots, that is definitely on our road to the combo that we're looking for. If we can find ways to KO this on our own and get it to count as a KO, then we've got access to potentially a lot of value in this chain. The other Yamato that we have, and we have 2 options here. I think it is important that there are 2 options because it is a mill style a lot of the time. It is really important to be able to have enough copies to where you can mill over them. Because with your 2 searchers here, you oftentimes don't want to pick these Yamatos because you want them to go to the trash. And so it's kind of a density of how many can I, with my searchers, fill into the trash. Particularly this one because it has no counter. But this one at least has some counter so that you can get it on in the trash when you need to. But I do think that having 2 different copies, I don't know if 4 and 4 is correct, or if 3-3 or 4-2 or some ratio. I don't know the exact number that is correct to be able to reliably mill into one. But I do think that having 2 different copies, so being able to go up to 8, is going to be really important for the deck. So what this second one does then, it is another 8 cost, 8,000 power, no counter this time, with on play, add up to 1 Land of Wano type character with card with a cost of 6 or less from your trash to your hand. Then play up to 1 character card with a cost of 2 or less from your hand. So that's actually one of the things that we have not seen all of the cards from the deck yet. But finding more 2 costs is actually going to be an interesting thing to see, just because we don't know what else we're going to be able to play out for 2 costs. But the 6 cost that you get back from the trash is probably going to be a Yamato, so you can do it again the following turn. But the 2 cost, we'll see. There are still several slots, and I'll probably try to count out the slots or kind of predict what I would like to see in the deck that would work. But yeah, so now that we've seen kind of all 3 of these, the main combo looks like on 6 Dawn or 7 Dawn, because actually pretty much anytime from 6 on, you ideally want to be playing these Yamatos out to summon out these 8 costs for cheaper. They will have Rush, and depending on which one you're doing, you're either setting up for a future turn or just getting in and with unblockables. Both of these having Rush from the leader ability is going to make for a pretty strong ability. And then the other kind of thing that we're looking for is other ways to kind of extend out this combo. Because just playing a 6 cost and then stacking Dawn on these, ultimately I don't think is going to be strong enough to break into the meta. So that we need ways of kind of extending this out. And I think as we've alluded to, the main way of doing that is going to be 6 cost into 8 cost into a KO, which brings out 6 cost into another 8 cost again, which I do think is a rather strong combo, and we'll just see what ways we have to enable it. So that's, I think, what's going to be the core of the deck. Finishing out the Land of Wano stuff that we have so far, we have the 9 cost, 6,000 power, 1k counter Kozuki Momonosuke, who has blocker. And then on play up to 1 Land of Wano type character card with a cost of 6 or less other than Momonosuke from your trash. So what we get from this, a 6 cost or less, we can get this Yamato. Then the Yamato coming from the trash will have Rush. You get to swing with it. Then you can activate main, summon this one, gets a Rush on this, another swing here. So just a good starter here that doesn't require you to essentially have the Yamatos in hand. I think a lot of times with the black decks, you will end up with too many of these into the trash, and you only get the first one into your hand potentially. And in those cases, you'll have to either get the one that can recur it so that you have it for the future, or if you can find a Momonosuke, you can use the Momonosuke to get out the Yamatos. Also notably, these are above 8 costs, so we can use them with Odin and Robin, because I don't think that this is a card. This is a usable thing to do on 9 Dawn, but I don't think it's necessarily the strongest. So depending on what else we see in this archetype, there could be a little bit of room for this one to get stronger, depending on what else we see. But I do think that at a baseline, playing 9 for a blocker, a 5k swing, and an 8k swing is not bad, but I think that it may be a little too fair compared to what we're seeing out of some of the other decks. So just something to keep in mind. I do think it is good, but I think that it could benefit from just a little bit more juice, so to speak. But we'll see. Moving on to the events we get. So first up, we have for 1 Dawn, I've come here to cut those chains, which it's one of our modal events. With main, you may rest 6 of your Dawn cards, making that 7 total. Trash 5 cards from the top of your deck, then play up to 1 Land of Wano type character card with a cost of 6 or less from your trash. So the way I see this is extra copies of Yamato. Because if you can mill one over, then you can play one of these out from trash. It will have Rush that turn. And then you can use this ability to chain into the next one. And then when you don't need more Yamatos, you get a nice little counter event. It's nice that this Momonosuke is only a 9 cost, meaning on 10 Dawn you have 1 extra for this modal event, allowing you to get a blocker, hold up counter for event, and still get your combo. Notably, the Momonosuke and I've come here to cut those chains do result in the same amount of swinging power. This one coming in at 2 cost less on net, but this one coming with a blocker. So it's kind of an interesting trade-off. This one having counter for 1k, this one having counter for 3k if you can hold one up. So it'll be an interesting balance. I do think that these are great, great to see. Next up, we have the Hallowed Glacier Slash. It is a 1-cost event with main. You may rest 2 of your Dawn cards. If one of your opponent's characters has been KO'd this turn, set your Yamato leader as active, which is really interesting because we haven't really seen too much KO in the set so far. So the most likely place for this to come from is either going to be this chopper or from combat, which is something that is definitely going to be doable. If your opponent leaves anything anything on or anything rested, then you are going to get some pretty good swings into it on a lot of turns with these 8K swings, and potentially more than one of them. I do think this is pretty likely to go, but it at the end of the day is only a 3-cost event to restand your leader, which while is a pretty solid baseline, is also not that impressive compared to some of the broken things that other decks can do. The big saving grace of this one is that you can protect your leader with the 3,000 power counter. So interesting one here. I don't know how many copies actually make the cut at the end, but definitely a solid kind of surprise factor card where you can get an extra swing that your opponents really weren't expecting to get. Final card in the revealed so far Land of Wano for this set is the 2-cost event with main up to one of your leader or characters gains 3,000 power during this turn. Then if you have 10 or more cards in your trash, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less. So now we have a second card that can work with our event here that does KO. This one also works really well with it because you get to give, just on its face, you get to give your leader +3 going to 8K for 2 Dawn. And then you get to rest 3 more to get a second swing. And just on its face, if they have a 1 or 2 cost on the board, you have 13K twice with these 2 cards with your leader, and you get to KO one of their 2 costs. So if they have a little jump blocker, then that works. This one also has a trigger of add up to 1 Yamato from your trash to your hand. Almost always going to be this Yamato because these 2 you want to stay in the yard, but we'll see if we get any additional Yamatos to make that trigger worth it. This is kind of like Houndblaze in some regards, but we'll have to see if there's enough cost minus to make it as threatening as Houndblaze was way back in its time. But yeah, I think this is a pretty solid card. All right, so those are all of the Land of Wano cards that we have. There's one other card that I really want to focus on here, and that is Hakuba. This is the card that people have identified as the one card that allows you to KO your own characters. So what he does, he's a 5-cost, 6,000 power, 1K counter with Dawn ×1. When attacking, you may KO one of your characters other than this character. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -5 cost during this turn. So what you can do is on 7 Dawn, you play this out on 5. On 7 Dawn, you play down this Yamato, draw 1, trash one of your 8 costs, this one in particular, into the trash. And then attach 1 Dawn, your last remaining Dawn, to Hakuba. You activate this ability to bring out your 8 cost. You have an 8K swing that has rush. Then you swing with Hakuba for 7, KOing your Yamato and reviving this Yamato. So that is an 8K swing, a 7K swing. And then when this one comes back, it is coming out of the trash. So it has the ability to swing. So you get to swing a 5K. And then you trash it to its own ability, bring back this 8K again, and get another 8K swing. And then you have leader ability. So you end up with 5, 7, 5, 8, 5. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 swings on 7 Dawn. And depending on the leader, that can be a whole lot of stuff. If they're playing Nami, then you are still getting 3 swings above 7. Which is definitely a reasonable thing to do. Probably in that situation, you swing with your leader first, and then you start playing out all of your combos because the 8s and the 7 will already be going into the 7K leader at that point. And the two 8Ks in that situation are unblockable, so they can't even use like their blocker Marcos or anything like that to get out of those swings. So that is the main combo that people have found. And I think that from these cards alone, you probably have almost everything in the deck. The questions are, what other 2 costs are you going to play in the deck to work with this Yamato? I think there's a couple options. If we go to cost of 2 in black, I've seen people look at, we have some chump blockers you could do. There are variations of this one. This one in particular, let me switch 2, 3, 4, 5. So looking at just chump blockers, that would be a pretty easy place to go. You could do Cobra, who also helps fill your trash a little bit. You could do Cerberus as just a generic blocker here. 2 costs. Momonosuke is an option for Land of Wano 2Ks. Not something I would probably recommend because it probably doesn't do a ton. You could also do Charlos, but he is technically worse than Cobra. He has 0 power and otherwise the same abilities. Then you also have Zoro here, who would be just another option. Or the what's it called? This Nico Robin. This promo one, I'm not even sure if this one is available yet in English. We have an English looking card here, so I think we might. But this would also be an option. So you can always play out one of these 2 costs here. There aren't a ton of interesting options here. I think a lot of the black cards are up at 3 cost. But yeah, some interesting cards that could come out in the rest of this set. So let's actually look at spoilers here, and we can see how many cards we have left. Looking at that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more black cards that could come out here. Teach seems to be almost exclusively in yellow, so we're hoping that these could be all Land of Wano. The other thing to note is we already have a couple of Straw Hats with the Land of Wano type. And there are 10 total Straw Hats, so these could all be Straw Hats. There's 7 cards and 3 already here. So that would be the 10 Straw Hats that we could all see in Land of Wano, which means we could have a lot of interesting effects. I can imagine an Usopp being 2 costs or less. And then you probably have your Frankies, Jinbeis, Luffy's, and such as a little bit more expensive. Or we could see a couple Blackbeard Pirates type cards in here. So there's definitely room for more cards to come out for the deck. And then other things that I would like to see in the deck, let me see. Okay, it didn't save it. Is a card to replace Hakuba. Because Hakuba, the big downside to Hakuba is he is unsearchable, and he doesn't have really any other synergy with the deck if you aren't getting that Yamato combo off. The -5 cost is almost always going to waste. It is something that you can use with the event or with the chopper, but those are already eating into your turn, where you're probably using up most of that other Dawn. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Having a version of this card, or even just an on-play KO one of your characters, is going to be really interesting for the deck, and we'll just have to see what we get. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk through with Yamato today, and I hope you guys are getting excited for OP16. I know I am. I think the only downside is having to wait drip feed wise for the rest of these spoilers. Hopefully Bandai can figure out the correct cadence to keep spoilers hype without undermining the new sets. But I just want to see the rest of the cards. We have 7 more cards. That's a lot of potential time that we have to wait for these cards. And I do think that there's going to be at least 1 or 2 playables in this other half of the deck. Notably, we do not have a 2K in the Land of Wano type from this new stuff. We just have the Momonosuke from Dressrosa, which really doesn't have any value with the rest of the deck, except that it's searchable with our Momonosuke and our Nami. But yeah, that is going to be it for this week's video, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.